Hi, I'm Nandakumar, and this is a short video about world history for Kavin'S IAS Academy. We have a previous year UPSC question. Explain how the foundations of the modern world were made by the American and French revolutions. Two revolutions clubbed together. This is a short video about both the revolutions together. French Revolution, is a shocker in world history. It had a lot of violence. French Revolution, there is at least a passing reference even in school books. If you had gone through the history books from 5th standard, 6th standard onwards, there is at least a passing revolution about French Revolution. There, at some corner, they would have probably made a mention about French Revolution. In politics, in political science, bigger books, there's certainly and always is a reference about French Revolution because it is emotionally what I can say. It's a bit emotionally distressing, but at the same time, shocking and fascinating. Fascinating because people who love liberty, who love Republican idols, who love human rights, would be would be very they'll be attracted to the French Revolution because ruler of the stature of 18th century France, King Louis XVI, was dragged out of the palace. This is a shocker value. A king has been dragged out of the palace. He was brought to the guillotine. A guillotine, a dreaded machine during the reign of terror in revolutionary France. There, he was brought to the guillotine, and right in front of booing people booing and asking for his blood, he was just simply killed. His head was chopped off, and it just rolled down. Just close your eyes, imagine that picture. King Louis XVI, in this case, was dragged out of the palace. Actually, he was in jail. He was in house arrest, and then he was put in jail. Actually, he was brought there right in front of people. And his dynasty, Bourbon dynasty, was supposed to have come from the sun. Actually, they have great pedigree, and France is supposed to be a superpower, not just a superpower in Europe. Their French culture is an extraordinary culture which was imitated by many countries. Even Russia had imitated French culture, and France had such a special place in European history. The king of France was just there in 1789. In the French Revolution, by his own people. He was killed by his own people. 2 years on, his queen met with the same man. Queen Mary Antoinette, who was originally from Austria, she was killed pretty much like in the same guillotine where the king was actually killed. So this thing, the king and the queen being killed, and Europe has been having for 1,000 years. Europe has been having Anglo-Saxon ruling dynasties and all. This created a shocker value. But you know what? In this shocker value, American Revolution takes a sort of a backseat. If you look at it more logically, there's a historical bias to both these factors. French Revolution, American Revolution, there's a historical bias. Actually, American Revolution triggered French Revolution in many ways than one. Point number one. It provided the inspiration for French Revolution. Point number two. And the French involvement of American Revolution was directly proportional to the fall of the French dynasty. The money, the millions of amount, the lot of money which was pumped by France to fight Britain in the American Revolution war was directly consequential to the fall of the French dynasty. So in many ways than one, American Revolution caused French Revolution, but we forget about the American Revolution because it had very little violence. The king was not there. There was no king out there. The king was not there. And more importantly, I spoke about the reign of terror, a short reign of terror in which 16,000 people died in guillotine and about 40,000 people died in the prison elsewhere, for a period of some 10 years. So the violence, and more importantly, Karl Marx, who would be coming, who was kid at this point of time, would actually be overawed, so be utterly taken back by his French Revolution that he founded Marxism by this one sample size. That people can rise against the bourgeois people who can be brought down, the upper classes could be brought down by proletariat, ordinary people. He had this empirism thing. The revolution by the ordinary people, the revolution by the underdogs, the ordinary people, through a sample set both sides of one, which was French Revolution. You can imagine what kind of an extraordinary effect this could have had on the psyche of Karl Marx. So that thing sets French Revolution apart. But now I want to talk to you about American Revolution first, and then why that is more important in world history than French Revolution were the facts. I always have fascination. I'm always happy about comparing Indian independence history with the American Revolution. In one way, they're parallel to each other. I have a nostalgia about our freedom struggle. For example, hardly any other country in the world in the 20th century or the 19th century had a galaxy of stars as India had in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. You had Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. Many of them can keep naming for at least 5 months. There are plenty of them. B.R. Ambedkar. So all of these people were there. And why I am comparing this with America was, in the 18th century, America was lucky to have such a galaxy of stars in George Washington, a towering figure. He was both a political figure as well as a military general. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, who was a key revolutionary during the during the American Revolutionary War, and General Lafayette. Many people. They had John Quincy Adams, who later became president of America. These are all people who a galaxy. America was lucky enough to have a galaxy of stars themselves. So that way, I love to compare Indian freedom movement and American Revolution. But more importantly, America today, generally people, why you see articles in the Hindu newspaper, elsewhere, in many newspapers, if people make fun of America as the Uncle Sam or the big brother of the world, what do they write about? America is hell-bent on exporting democracy to the world. That's the way they make fun of, especially people who don't like America, from Russia, from Middle East, dictatorial actions. Even China, they make fun of America saying that you are lecturing us on democracy. That is where the importance of America lies. There is no democracy in the world if not for the American Revolution. American Revolution directly influenced plenty of things which stands as epitome of separation of powers, the checks and balances in the Constitution. And there would not be some important words even in the preamble of Indian Constitution if not for American Revolution and its effect on French Revolution. Together, these two brought words such as liberty, equality, fraternity from French Revolution, as well as secularism from America. And many areas. At least I would say at least 6 ideas in the preamble of the Indian Constitution are actually borrowed from both American Revolution as well as French Revolution. American Revolution. What exactly is American Revolution? They won their freedom from Britain. America was originally, today there are 50 states. Originally there were only 13 states, especially most of the northeast of America. And originally Americans were people who settled from Europe. You would have Irish people, Germans, French people, British people, Scottish people. America as a country, it's like a melting pot. There are many nations, many people from the 18th century, from 17th century, 18th century onward, who went to America and settled there. Point number one. And over a period of time, they were governed by Britain. The story of American Revolution is how actually the strong, the sacred relationship between Britain and America actually sank to very new levels. And you have things, events like Boston Tea Party and the Tea Act and all. And what is the taxation without representation slogan? Why actually great intellectuals actually started writing articles as to why actually America needs freedom from Britain. So this is the story about American independence. Why America wanted to fight freedom from Britain. Point number one. Point number two, there's a famous article called as Common Sense. Common Sense was actually written almost, at the time of American Revolution to actually do a heavy argument, a strong argument as to why America has to win freedom from Britain. This is point number two. Point number three is America had the power. Although they did not have a professional army, although there were only 13 states, although within themselves there was inner fighting, there were many loyalists. Within the American society, there were loyalists who were rooting for Britain actually. They did not have, the most important thing is Britain was a world superpower, global superpower. They had, in 18th century, they had actually many colonies across the world. They could, in fact, they were ruling the seas. They had the most strongest naval power in the 18th century. And America, with their professional army, the story about its winning independence from Britain is nothing short of heroic struggle. On the 4th of July in 1776, they declared freedom. It was between the stories where the crux of the American independence fighting was between 1776 to 1783. There were many wars. You will have to remember some of the key battles, like Battle of Saratoga, Siege of Boston, the last battle of Yorktown, in which Cornwallis actually surrendered to American forces. So these are some of a few battles you're supposed to remember because you have to produce it in the answer. Otherwise, The American Revolution story is a cakewalk where you learn about how America set up its constitution, how they won the independence, how they set up the constitution, and with their constitution, how they actually became a glorious democratic example for the rest of the world. How even today, American idols of freedom struggle, American idols of the Bill of Rights, for example, the famous Bill of Rights of America, how it actually defines moral democratic stories is a very important story. And I spoke about a particular battle called as Battle of Saratoga. Actually, the story is that has a background. To cut the long story short, Britain and France had a long year fight in Europe, which actually resonated which actually reflected in North America. Britain and France fought a long war in North America, and previously, shortly before the American independence struggle, Britain had defeated France. France was defeated and thrown out of America. So France had a grudge against Britain. When they saw an opportunity to actually settle the scores with Britain, they jumped up. Americans were fighting for Britain, for fighting for independence against Britain, and at the Battle of Saratoga, France was convinced that actually they can support America, so that Britain also can actually thrown out of North America. So France entered the war. They supported the American revolutionaries, a very crucial support actually, and that resulted in ousting of Britain. But the after effect was actually the heavy cost of supporting American Revolution, which ran for 7 years, the naval blockade, the counter-naval blockade, the supplies which were sent, the negotiation cost, plenty of costs, all of the costs. Could France afford it? They could not afford it. In 1786, 1777, 1778, they had a very poor crop, as well as the heavy debt of the government. King Louis XVI was supposed to be, I can say he was supposed to be very sharp and very sympathetic to the people's causes, but he was not. He did not understand exactly what is the problem with the French society during just before the French Revolution. That is the reason why actually people burst out. First point. Second point is actually, France was heavily gifted with their own intellectuals. In between 16th to 18th centuries, two major phenomena in world history had actually had effect on a phenomenal effect on European society. One was actually Renaissance, the other was actually Enlightenment. To enlighten is to give light to people. How do you give light to people? Through knowledge. So the Enlightenment actually means the work of phenomenal philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Montesquieu, and people of them. And not done. The name which I just told you, the three French philosophers, not only them. There was Immanuel Kant from Germany, and lastly, the most important person was actually the famous British philosopher John Locke. The towering above all is the most important British philosopher John Locke. Why am I bringing these philosophers and thinkers in the story of French Revolution? They were the people who laid the foundation for French Revolution, apart from the effect of American Revolution on French society. These people started questioning the two most important elements of the French society, which was the monarchy itself as well as the church. Monarchy and church were the two people who actually totally combined the numerical score, the population, or the people influential in a society were just 2 to 3% in monarchy as well as the church. But these two people were actually riding on the next 97%, which is the ordinary people. The ordinary people were not actually ordinary people in the French society. Please pay attention. Actually, the ordinary people of the French society were not actually in the rest of the world. If you are going to look at the fight in the 20th century, armed struggle, the anti-colonialist struggle within Africa and Asia, when people say ordinary people, it is the coolies, the people who are ridden with poverty and all of it. But French society was different. Out of 97% people, the ordinary people comprised of city urban elites. The people who are generally called as the urban bourgeoisie. Traders, shopkeepers, doctors, engineers, scientists. These are the people who form the backbone of French Revolution. So French society's ordinary people were totally different from the ordinary people which you see elsewhere in the anti-colonial struggle actually. So these are the people like the chief heads of the Reign of Terror. Every one of the chief heads of the Reign of Terror were actually from the French society only, or from the French urban elite only. So the French urban elite, as well as the rise of Napoleon, comprises the whole story of French Revolution. What happened to France during the revolution, and why actually France actually played an instrument. The French Revolution had played an instrumental and a monumental role in the broader French European society. And what happened after the French Revolution, after the king was killed? What was the exact political that landscape, the violent political rupture in the French political landscape, as well as how it had all of these things together gave the birth of another superstar in the world history, Napoleon. Napoleon was a child of French Revolution, and the Napoleonic Wars at the beginning of the night, during the first decade of the 19th century, was a series of ruptures in the whole of world history itself. So he redrew national boundaries. He established a Napoleonic code. He brought phenomenal. He set up many Napoleonic governments in Italy, in Spain, and Austria, and many countries around. For 15 years, the whole of Europe, except Britain, was under the feet of Napoleon. So all of these events, American Revolution, French Revolution, together shape modern political thought in the form that the Enlightenment ideas, American revolutionary ideas, American independence struggle declaration, these ideas shapes the modern constitution. From the Indian Constitution to American Constitution, and the Britain and British unwritten Constitution, the constitutions elsewhere across the world, most of the democracies today have the Republican ideals, the checks and balance in the government, the fundamental freedoms, and even the many factors of the Indian Constitution can be traced back to American Revolution as the French Revolution. So that is how the modern world actually was shaped by these twin revolutions. Thank you.